That's it.
Let's do it. All right, my friends, welcome back to a very exciting episode of the Storybox podcast. Today, my friends, you're in for a real treat because I have a UFC legend. He is undisputed. My goodness, this guy has been untouchable in the sport. His name is George St-Pierre. Now, for those of you that don't know who he is, or somehow you don't know who he is a UFC record holder for the most wins in title bouts and all-time best pound-for-pound MMA fighter in the history of the world. Believe it or not, since retiring, George has made a notable statement within Hollywood as well, which we'll no doubt get into today. He has played some key roles in Marvel's Captain America, the Winter Soldier, I believe. A lot of people would have seen you in there. And I even saw you in the new Marvel's Falcon and the Winter Soldier. My goodness, man. And can I read out some of your UFC titles and wins for a second, just so people know? 26 wins in total. 8 by knockout, 6 by submission, 12 by decision, and you only lost twice, which is absolutely insane. I can go on and on and on about your amazing achievements, George, but welcome so much, man, to the Storybox podcast today.
Thank you for this fantastic introduction, my friend. My goodness.
You've now got to take me everywhere you go just so I can do those introductions more often.
I'm very happy to be here with you.
I'm glad that you have been able to make the time to actually be here today, man. Like I've watched you on the UFC. I've no doubt been a fan of yours growing up, watching the sport, and you have a nickname called Rush, I believe. And if people were to actually watch you in the sport, that nickname actually really, really suits. Before we dive into your backstory, how this all got started for you, and all the other questions I do have for you, the very first question that I want to ask is, what does success look like for you?
Successful. Well, I think to make yourself successful, to be successful, it's ultimately, I believe, is to be happy. And I'm very happy in my life. I used to be, when I was younger, I was not happy of my situation. I didn't like myself. So what I did is I make a plan and that who I wanted to become. I didn't like who I was at the time, but I liked who I wanted to become. So that's how it happened. It all started with a dream. And personally, that's how I did it.
Why didn't you like who you were when you were a kid? And more specifically, what was the plan that you made to become the person that you would no doubt later like?
Well, growing up, I was victim of bullying. The reason why I've started martial art is because of bullying. I was a victim, and I was complaining about everything at the time. I was very negative, and I'm not from a very wealthy family, so I see a lot of other kids. They were having, for example, the shoes, the Nike, the Air Jordan shoes, and I didn't have the luxury to have those kinds of things, and it made me very negative. I was always complaining because at that time I didn't travel. I didn't see the world, how the world really was. So I thought of myself being not a lucky kid. Now I realize it's all wrong because I'm from Canada, and there's much, much worse place. So growing up, being very negative, victim of bullying, I started doing martial art as a self-defense. Then I became very successful because martial art was a place where I was pretty much doing very well. I was not doing well at school. I was not, I didn't have a lot of friends. But martial art became for me the place where I became successful. So I fall in love with it. I started as a self-defense. Self-defense became quickly a passion. And a passion later on down became a business, the way I make a living out of it.
Very humble beginnings, George. I mean, you grew up in a very small town. You mentioned, I think it was like 2,000 people. And I know the feeling of not having those Nikes when all your friends have the Nikes and the nice shoes. I remember growing up, I wanted basketball shoes, and my family, we can only really afford sports shoes, one pair a year actually. So if I wanted extra shoes, I'd have to save up enough money to go and buy them. And in the very first pair, I actually borrowed from a friend of mine, which gave me terrible blisters. Another story entirely. But I want to go towards your story a little bit and ask you about when you first started in martial arts. Why do you think you got good at it?
I was pretty good in every sports. I was very athletic. But there's one thing that even I was good, nobody could have tell at the time that I would have become world champion in mixed martial art. First of all, mixed martial art was not a thing when I first started. It was seen as a barbarian sport. It was brand new. Nobody thought that one day it would become very popular, but nobody could have pretend or predict that I would become martial art champion, even in karate. I was good, but I feel it's the same thing with a lot of kids, like you cannot tell if a kid will be world champion right in the beginning. And one reason why is because some kids, yes, are more gifted than others, but even the most gifted kids sometimes, for example, like me, I was very good in sport, but I had my growth spur later in my life. So there was kids that were better than me at the time because they had their growth earlier. So it's like a head start for them. So at that age, you can't tell, and I've seen it all the time. Like in Canada, hockey is the number one sport. I see how the parent act when their kids are playing in the arena on the ice, and they all think that their kid's gonna make it to the NHL. You can't tell at this age. The thing that you can do as a parent, I believe, is to make it playful. Have your kid have fun and make it playful, and that's what my parents did for me. They were not the one that took responsibility and told me, "Oh, you didn't do well to this competition." They did. The only thing they said to me, they say, "Hey, did you have fun?" And sometimes I was very competitive. So I said, "No, I didn't have fun." And they say, "Okay, next time you'll have fun." You know what I mean? That was the job of my sensei, to push me. My parents were just there to make sure I had fun. And I stay active and I keep doing what I love to do,
I love that, man. So did you ever, like you mentioned that you were bullied, and I'm sorry that you were bullied because that did happen to me. Did you actually get into any fights at school?
Oh, I had a lot of fight at school. I have a very good record as a mixed martial art competitor, but in the street it's not that good. I had problems with delinquent kids who were at my school, and they were much older than me. And when you're maybe a 10 years old kid and the other kids are like 12 to 13 years old, there's a big gap in between the age. One is a kid basically, and the other one is a young teenager. So in terms of strength and growth, there's a big difference. So I was not doing very well back then when I was involved in some altercation. However, the way I learn how to deal with this, it's not really physical. I wish I could tell you I got rid of bullying because I kicked all my opponent ass, but that's not what really happened. Martial art taught me to learn how to believe in myself. It made me gain confidence, and I believe the bully is like a predatory animal in nature. The lion will always hunt the weakest prey. It will not go against the big alpha bull. It will go against the weakest one, the one who's injured, the one who's older, or the youngest one. Bullies are the same way in society. They go after the one that are weak. And when I was young growing up, I didn't like who I was because I didn't have a good self-image of myself. I was looking at myself in the mirror. And I didn't see a successful kid. I see a kid who was scared, was not successful. I didn't like what I was seeing in the mirror. And it shows the way I was carrying myself. I was looking down. I didn't have a good confidence. So martial art taught me to become confident. Confidence is something that you can learn.
Yeah.
It's not something that just happened overnight. You can build it. And it taught me to stand up straight. When I talk to someone, look at him in the eyes. When I shake someone's hand, a firm handshake, and I stand up straight and I look at him. So I wanted to change my environment at the time, but martial art taught me that in order to change my environment, I need to change myself from the inside out. And it happened over a slow process. And by gaining confidence, people stopped bullying me at the time. That's how it really happened. It did not happen like in a Hollywood movie, like bing, bang, boom, I beat everybody. Unfortunately, no, it's not the reality. It happened over a long period of time, and I gained confidence. And by gaining confidence, I was not an easy target for the bullied anymore.
You actually brought up an area that I wanted to touch on, which is confidence and how we actually go about developing confidence. And you're right, it does happen over a period of time. And, you know, I like how you said, it's not like the movie. We all want it to happen like that, but it doesn't, it doesn't happen. I think we have that sort of image in our brains, thanks to Hollywood. But, you know, for you, I'm curious, how did martial arts give you that confidence? And then when you had that confidence, did that mean you weren't afraid anymore?
I always was afraid. Being afraid and not being confident is not being confident. It's not the same thing. You can be confident, but being afraid, and that's how I always was during my fight. Confidence comes from how you prepared yourself, especially in athletic sporting competition.
Yeah.
If you, for example, if I give a good analogy to kids all the time, I said, if you have an exam at school and you studied very hard, you will be scared of failure still, but you have the right to be confident because you know you prepare yourself the best you can. Someone who does not study, now he's going to be scared and he's not going to be confident. So when I'm getting ready for a fight, I always prepare myself the best as I can. And it should be the same for everybody in every field of work. And let me tell you something. You can have all the skills in the world, but if you do not have confidence, it's like someone who has a lot of money in his bank account, but no way of accessing it.
Yeah.
You need to have the skills, of course, and the confidence that comes with it. And then the magic can happen.
I love that distinction, man. Great points you raised there. Were there any times in your professional career that you did not feel confident, and what happened when that was the result?
Oh, a lot of times. One time I remember when I had my first title shot, I was fighting the legendary Matt Hughes, and I used to see that man compete for many years. So it was. For me, it was unreal. Even I remember when I did the face-off against Matt Hughes, I couldn't even look at him in the eyes because I was not going into that fight to win. I was going to not lose.
Yeah.
So I was not confident. I knew I trained for that fight the best as I could. I prepared as the best I could, but I couldn't see any way that I could beat that guy. I took the fight. And it demands a lot of courage to take a fight, not thinking that you're going to win, thinking that, oh, I'm going to go there, do my best, but I'm going to try, even if I cannot win, at least I'm not going to try to not lose. So I took that fight and I lost, but it's by watching it after that I realized I was like, man, wait a second. I could have won that fight. This guy is just is a human being. I could have beat him. And I believe personally, that's one of the major reasons that when I faced Matt Hughes the second and the third time, mentally, I was not the same person that I was when I fought him the first time. And that's one of the biggest reason that I beat him the second and third time I fought him, because I was confident.
I think confidence is such an important area for us to really hone in on in our lives, because without confidence, you know, a lot of things can go wrong in our life and we can get stuck. And I always appreciate the mindset of a fighter like yourself, and someone who at the end of your professional career, you've then taken it a step further. You've then taken yourself into another unknown area that you probably wouldn't have thought about doing in the first place, which is the massive beast that is Hollywood. I want to get to that in just a moment, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you and give my audience context on how you actually got your time in the UFC. Like, how did that story come about?
How did I translate from UFC to the movies? That's your question?
So I'll get to that question in just a moment.
Okay.
If I was to go back a little bit, how did you get your shot in the actual UFC? Sorry, I should have clarified that question better.
The way I got to UFC is at the time, there was a young, very promising fighter. His name was Robbie Lawler. He became later on UFC world champion, but at the time he was like 19 or early 20s years old. And he was a rising star. And that was another fighter named Pete Spratt, who came out of nowhere and beat Robbie Lawler at the time with devastating leg kick. He stopped him by TKO. And that was a huge upset. So there was a promoter in Canada that was able to organize a fight in between myself and Pete Spratt, who beat up Robbie Lawler at the time. And so when Pete Spratt came to fight in Canada, he was probably thinking that he just come to collect a paycheck, an easy paycheck. But I beat him. I beat him by a choke. Adaka Jimmy, one of my favorite choke, and I surprised everybody. So that's how I came on the UFC radar, because Pete Spratt at the time was a big name. He came to fight in Canada and I beat him. I upset everybody. So everybody was like, who's that kid that just beat Pete Spratt? And that was my ticket to the UFC. That's how I started. There was a very smart move from Stéphane Patry, who was my manager at the time.
Where did the nickname Rush come into play?
So the nickname Rush come into play because in my amateur and early professional career, I used to beat up all my opponents in less than a round. However, how time passed by, people start to study you and they know your game, so they adapt better. And things start to get more difficult to me to finish them in the first round. So I needed more time. But that's how my nickname come from, Rush.
To me, man, you're still Rush, honestly, when it comes to fighting, even though when some of them went longer than 2 rounds. I remember some of your fights with Nate Diaz. Now, for those of you that don't know who Nate Diaz is, he's like a massive punching bag. Like, the guy can take a hit, honestly. I think the only way you can really pin the guy is if you submit him, like if you get him down on the ground. But
I'm still Rush, because with me, there's no filling out process. The fight start when the bell ring. A lot of fighter, they need time to, they call it the filling out process. I don't do that. I do the filling out process. It's all up here. I'm ready to fight right away. I'm ready to take risk, and I'm engaging. I'm gonna bring the fight to you no matter what. That's why I'm Rush, you know.
I love it, man. What is going through your mind before the fight? So the time leading up towards the fight, and then during the fight.
So it's a very uncomfortable feeling. Everything that happened before the fight, especially even I would say when the fight get announced. It's like a funnel, but on the other side.
Yep.
The closer you get to the fight, the more uncomfortable it is. And I never liked that feeling. I hate it. I never liked to fight in the first place. I just did it because it allowed me to have the freedom, the money, the access of things that other people does not have, and the lifestyle that I have. That's why I did it. I use fighting to get me where I am in my life. I was just good at it, but I don't like to compete. I like the science of it. I like to train, but I do not like. So before a fight, it's very, very hard. It's unbearable. The feeling of not knowing if you will be badly hurt or humiliated or winning the ultimate prize of victory. It's unbearable for me. And the closer you get to the fight, the worse it becomes. Until the person that works for UFC step in your locker room and says, Saint-Pierre, you up next. Now everything changed mentally for me. I turn into what I call cruise control. I'm emotionless. I don't have any emotion. I'm stoic. I'm on cruise control. So everything that I've done through all my life, those repetition, those drill will happen. Like if an opponent throws something at me, I don't even think, because you don't have time to think. If you think, it's too late. You just react. Cruise control. And that's how I feel, how it is for me.
What do you think separates a good fighter compared to a great fighter like yourself?
There's different ways of explaining it, but for me, it's like a triangle. If I watch a fighter, there's the physical aspect. Are you in good shape? Are you injury-free? That's the physical aspect. That's the foundation of a fighter. If you the wider is your foundation, normally the more solid is your base. Yeah. So this is very important. Are you a good athlete? Are you in good shape? Are you injury-free? Physical. There's another layer that comes after the physical, that come over your the technical aspect. And a lot of the elite fighters are very good technically. They know how to get out of an armbar. Their knowledge of the game is very good. Yeah. And there's a third layer that make the difference between the contender and the champions. This is the tactical layer. And let me explain that. People sometimes they misunderstand the difference between technical and tactical. Yeah. Tactical, it requires to know yourself very well, which is hard, by the way. It's not everybody that know themselves very well, and know your opponent and be able to know how you will match your strength against his strength and be able to take your opponent out of his comfort zone to bring the fight where you will slope the odds in your favor to win the fight. And this is the tactical. You have the physical, the technical, and the tactical on top of it. And tactical, that's what makes the difference between the contenders and champions.
I like that analogy. It makes a lot of sense to me. For those, this is more of an interesting question for myself. You've had 8 wins by knockout, 6 by submission, 12 by decision. Which one for you feels better?
Well, it depends of the opponent that I'm facing. I really liked the submission. And the reason why I like the submission is because your opponent is telling you, I give up, you're better than me, I give you the referee. And very often also the reason why I like the submission better is because you do not hurt your opponent. If you tap out, or if the referee stopped the fight because of a submission, sometimes you will break an arm, of course. But if the guy tap out, it's because he tap out before he get badly hurt. You know what I mean? So I'm not there when I fight. I'm not there to badly injure my opponent. The only thing I want is to win. Yeah. And I will never want to win a fight knowing that I badly injure my opponent. It will make me feel bad.
You sound like a very kind fighter.
Well, I am nice, but when I fight, I would say I have 2 different personality. I have the Georges St-Pierre, the one that you're talking to right now, that does not like to fight, who try to be a good role model, and a good person. But there's also GSP. GSP is different. GSP only happened to be there when I start training and I do, for example, I hit the pad. Because when I hit the pad or I train jiu-jitsu, all the mechanic of my movement, now I start to remember it. And I remember that I'm good at it. Even though I don't like to fight, now I'm start to remember that, man, I'm good at this. I'm successful at this. And I start to loving it even more. And I become someone different. So that's why when I'm telling you that I do not like to fight, I'm not lying. Because I'm Georges Saint-Pierre. But if you ask me the question right in the middle of a training or right after one of my training, and you tell me, hey, would you like to compete again? I'm like, yeah, let's do it, because I'm not the same person. You know what I mean? You become a different animal. That's why you say you play football, you play hockey, you play basketball, but you do not play fighting.
Yeah.
Fighting, it's different. It's not only a sport, it's something different. It's something that get us to the core. You know what I mean? You need to become someone different sometime when you feel that's how I feel personally about it.
So is that one of the reasons why it kind of led you to finishing up your time in the UFC, or what was the catalyst for you to leave?
I always wanted to stay healthy. I always wanted to finish on top. And there's also a business reason that most of fighters do not understand. I compare athlete in combat sport to stock market. When you're a champion, your stock is very high. And you're always in the dilemma of, am I taking another fight? Am I leaving money on the table? Or you know, because the last person to know when it's time to retire is always the fighter itself.
Yeah.
However, for myself, I know I was getting older. And I was champion. I achieved everything that I wanted to achieve. And if I would have taken another fight, it would not have excited me as much as the previous one. Yeah. So my excitation would have gone down, which is not a good thing. And I always wanted to finish on top, so my stock is high. So when I turn around, a lot of opportunities open, a lot of doors are open to me. If you retire and your stock is low, now all those doors will close. And unfortunately, in the fighting, in combat sport, most athletes, they retire too late. Perhaps because they believe they leave money on the table. But the truth is, at long term, they do not leave money on the table if they retire on top, because they retire when their stock is high, and they will make that money, but maybe on a longer period of time. And on top of that, they will not affect their well-being, their health, which is the most important thing.
So why did you want to go into Hollywood, of all places? Why Hollywood?
Well, I when I was young, I always liked to play character when I was playing. And also when I had a chance during my life to do some cameo in movies, but I was too focused at that time on my mixed martial art career competing. So I didn't took any acting class, nothing like that. But I really liked my experience. And as soon as I retired, the timing was just perfect, because Disney contacted me and they say they wanted me to reprise my role of Batroc the Leaper in a series called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And right away, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I start right when I retired, I start to have acting classes, camera classes, theater classes, English classes. I'm training now just as hard in this that I've been training for fighting during my mixed martial art career. So it's really something that I want to improve in terms of for my game, you know. And I am aware that there's level to this, and I need to start back to white belt, but I welcome the challenge and I'm ready for it.
What has been some of the challenges for you transitioning from the UFC into Hollywood?
Well, actually, there's a lot of similarities in fighting and acting. I think I've been acting all my life, because when I was getting ready for a fight, or, I was very scared. If you see me walking towards the octagon before a fight, deep down inside, I'm very scared and very uncomfortable. However, I'm pretending that I'm happy to be there, and I'm walking like if it's impossible for me to fail. So I'm acting. And also, one thing that is very similar is that in fighting, you rehearse, you do a lot of drills of situations that might occur in the fight. But when you get into the fight, you find out quick enough that your opponent is never as good as you think he is never as bad as you think he is. It's always different. And the same thing in movies. You can practice a scene over and over. But when you get there on set, you find out quick enough, like in fighting, maybe the reactions of the actor with who you're playing will be different. Maybe the background is different. So you need to be like Bruce Lee said, you need to be like water. Be ready to adapt to everything. So that's why I believe the best actor and the best fighter are the one that adapt the best.
I think it's interesting how you can have some of the best actors in the world, right, that we recognize. They prepare like absolute crazy, but then when they get on set, no matter how many times they do it, and I've asked them this question many times, they still tell me that they're nervous. They still tell me that they struggle to remember some lines, because it's that high pressure situation. You got a lot of people depending on you, especially if it's a high paying role as well. So you got all these variables. But, some people are good at it than others. And you've been able to do a fantastic job at it, George. So I highly commend you at that. And I've loved seeing you in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and even the Winter Soldier too. So it's been good. What's next for you, man? What's coming up for you?
I have a few projects working on. However, COVID has delayed a lot of it. So some of the stuff was supposed to be happening right now, but they've been delayed until 2022. So, but I keep working. It just gives me more time to improve my game. And I keep working really hard to get better in acting and improve my English as well.
I love it, man. 2 final questions for you, if you don't mind. What do you love the most about yourself and your story?
What I love the most about my story. What I love the most, that's a hard question. My goodness. Okay.
Left the best till last.
What I love the most about myself and my story, I think I'm going to answer it in once. I think it's because I'm never satisfied. I'm very happy right now. And trust me, I'm very happy where I am in my life. But I believe when you are satisfied, it's when your happiness can go down. When you keep your mind occupied of goals that you want to achieve, it helps you to stay happy, because you're not satisfied and you're always working towards something. Yeah. So for me, yes, I had a great career in mixed martial art, but now I retired and I turn around and I have another goal. A lot of fight, unfortunately, I feel like they make the mistake of after their career, it feels like they don't have nothing else to achieve. So they get into depression, alcohol, and drugs. So I think you need to keep your mind occupied. Satisfaction is the death. You don't want to be satisfied. Are you satisfied? No, I am not. I want more. I want this. I want that. And there's a famous quote that says that the danger in life is not to aim high and never be able to reach your goal, is to aim low and be able to make it. So then you're satisfied. So I think it's important to always keep your mind occupied and strive towards something.
I love that, man. My final question for you is my all-time favorite question I ask everyone at the end. It's a hypothetical one with 3 minutes left on the clock. Sorry to rush, but imagine with me for a moment that you've been able to reach the age of 100. All your friends and your family have decided to put together a film for you of everything you've ever said and everything you've ever done. Don't ask me how they got it all. We'll call it magic for the sake of argument. They've been able to get it and show it to you on your 100th birthday. What do you want that film to say and to show about your life?
I think I would love to be happy in life, but what would make me happy is that I had a profound effect on people, that I was able during my lifetime to change the life of people. Some people perhaps that I don't know, but some people that I know, that I care about, and that I love, to change their life in a very positive way. Yeah. I feel that would be something that would make me very happy. Right now, I had a very crazy life, in terms, I had a lot of success in my career, and I was able to achieve a lot of the things that I wanted to achieve in terms of traveling and stuff like that. I feel very lucky. But sometimes when I'm going somewhere in vacation, I'm not going for myself. I'm going to take on someone that is my friend or my family with me, to making him having that experience. So the fun that I have is not me having the experience, it's the person that I care about having this experience, so I can witness that, and that's what makes me happy. Yeah. So it's not that I'm bored now. I'm not bored, but that's another stage in life that I'm shifting into, so to speak. You know what I mean? I know it feels old and stuff to say that, but that's what makes me happy right now, to take my dad, bring him in a safari in Africa, and because he never took the plane ever in his life, and take him in Africa and see how he react when he see the lions. And it's first time I see the lions live in nature too, but I'm like, to witness that, for me, that's gold and happiness for me.
I love it. Perfect send-off message. George St-Pierre, thank you so much, my friend, for your time, for your story, everything you're doing, and for coming on the Storybox podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. Stay safe and healthy.